in the fourth technological revolution. The delegation is seeking to further cement bilateral ties and ease recent tensions between the two countries on the business front. It emerged yesterday that MTN is in talks with the Nigerian telecoms industry regulator to reduce a $3.9 billion fine imposed for failing to disconnect unregistered SIM cards from its local network. Well, for more on this, we cross to our reporter Sophia Adengo in Abuja, Nigeria. Sophia, good afternoon to you once again. The official talks have ended. President Zuma has had a busy time meeting with President Buhari and addressing the National Assembly. What's the stance between the two countries now?
Well, Natasha, one must agree that, there's been a strong sense of support for both countries. South Africa committing to sitting down and really working out any kind of perceived tensions, and Nigeria playing host here and, really reiterating that going forward in this new leadership, the relationship with South Africa and Nigeria has set a new tone. A very liberal and open conversation, especially for we here in the media corps, when President Zuma came out and President Muhammadu Buhari also came out to speak to the press, really reiterating that, going forward, the two nations would consider themselves brothers, and that, African nations must commit to solving African problems, especially in the way of security. President Jacob Zuma also touching very lightly on the idea that, there should be a finer consideration when it comes to the visa requirements for Nigerian nationals and business people trying to find their markets in South Africa, and that the, Minister of International Relations and Cooperation from South Africa really tabling that as part of the talks and looking at a softer approach in what they have called softening up those borders, amongst many other, economic, details that were discussed. But I think what emerged out of much of the talks yesterday between the two, leaders is the fact that the cooperation is really the key in terms of helping their economies get over these really tough hurdles, as in the case of South Africa looking for markets, and as in the case of Nigeria, really trying to rebound from an overdependence on oil and looking for diversification, and looking at the South African government as, a big brother in the areas of agriculture and minerals. So it seemed to be a really cordial atmosphere, and also just reiterating the fact that, both countries at the moment have their fair share of struggles, and therefore would do better, looking to each other in terms of solutions. Natasha.
President Buhari yesterday revealing that MTN is in talks with the Nigerian telecoms industry regulator to reduce that fine imposed. We've not heard much on the progress of efforts to ease the business tensions. Are there any more developments on this front?
Well, President Muhammadu Buhari's tone in addressing the MTN fine, seemed to suggest that the Nigerian government had initially stepped in to help broker this fine from the $5 billion to the $3.9 billion, which is still in question by MTN. But of course, MTN has steered the conversation into the judiciary towards the end of last year. And therefore, President Muhammadu Buhari seemed to underscore the fact that he could not get involved as a government and would allow the judiciary system to take over. It is now that MTN is looking to settle out of court with the Nigerian, Communications Commission. And what President Muhammadu Buhari underscored yesterday while speaking about MTN specifically is that there seemed to be, the delay, the lapse in registering these 5 or so million people who, had access to phone service seemed to contribute to the intelligence of, insurgent activity here, especially with Boko Haram. So obviously not taking it very lightly, but of course not also providing a conclusive, something to draw from in terms of whether or not they have indeed completely settled with MTN at this time. Natasha.
All right, Sophia, thank you very much. We have to leave it there. Our correspondent in Abuja, Sophia Adengo. Well, here at home, Cape Judge President Judge John Hlophe says that the evidence against the woman alleged to have kidnapped a Zephany nurse from Groote Hospital more than 18 years ago is overwhelming. Hlophe says the accused's version of events makes no sense. Closing arguments are currently being heard.